Welcome to another episode of Prisoner to Billionaire. This one is entitled As a Youth. The other video I uploaded the last time, that one got cut off again, so I'm trying something new this time. Let's see how it works. See, the visuals not that good, but for now, that's what I'm working with, so I'm gonna have to do what I can do with the best I got. So, I spoke on my dad dying when I was 3 a couple times already. But he was only 23 years old when he died. My mom, she was the same age as him, like a couple months earlier or later, I think. And during his funeral, a lot of things came out. She ended up getting in fights with a couple females that she didn't know nothing about. So I think that kind of affected her. And me looking exactly like my dad, I'll probably upload some photos of me and him so y'all can see later on down the line, like the resemblance between the two of us. But I think over time, with what she went through mentally, with not just losing her husband, but going through everything that she had to go through after his death, and even at the funeral and so forth and so on. Like, seeing his face every day was kind of like a trigger to her. And I say that because a lot of times she used to take things out on me and call me ugly and different little stuff. I don't want to, make my mama look bad on here, and I'm not. And it's just that my childhood, you know what I mean? Like, I used to get, like I said in the last one, I used to get whoopings all the time. And a lot of times as a child, you don't realize why you're getting the whoopings all the time, and you don't feel like you deserve the to the extent that it goes to. Sometimes it was rough, it was what it was. Like I said in the first one, that during that time it wasn't illegal to get whoopings, and we even got swats at school and whatnot. But for me, it kind of like made me rebellious. Like, I didn't want to hear nothing she had to say growing up, you know, and I did what I did in the streets, and I come home knowing I'm gonna get a whooping, but it was what it was. I had one of my homeboys that I grew up with. He was, what I mean, we had like two different curfews. Just later on down the line, though, like we had to do two different curfews. I remember this one. Like, his curfew was at 11. My mama, her job, she'd go to work at 3 and get off at 3. So she used to tell me, like, if you ain't home by 3, then no, you can't come in. But he stayed with his grandma, and his grandma be like, if he ain't home by 11, then he can't come in. So we might be in the neighborhood or whatnot, and I'd be like, you going home, bro? And he'd be like, nope. So if he ain't going home at 11, I ain't going home at 3. So, and then shit, I know that, like, people probably looking at this and they be like, y'all can make it home by 11 to 3. And this is what I'm talking about. I was like, maybe like 15, 14, somewhere around there. I think it was probably like 14, 13, but it was somewhere around there. And for me, I was supposed to be the babysitter with my little brothers and sisters, but I used to kind of look out for my homeboy when I was with his sister. They stayed across the street from us, so I look out for her, and she had kind of like come over there and babysit while I was gone. And I don't know if my mom ever knew that or not. She probably ain't never gonna watch this because she ain't tech savvy either. So she probably hear about it or whatnot. But that's how I was. But earlier than that, you know, I was getting whoopings all the time, and I used to have the good grades. That's what I was saying earlier. Like, my mama was strict, and she wanted me to get good grades. And when I was in a black area, because my grandma, I think I told y'all before that, my my grandma on my daddy side, she stayed like in the hood, in the ghetto in Fresno, and but my mom and them, they stayed in like the upper, not the upper class, but like it was mostly whites over there at that time, and we didn't really go over there until like maybe Christmas, when all the family get together, or different holidays or whatnot, and unless my mama was doing bad, and then she'd move back in with her mom and my grandpa, and that's when we'd be out there. But my cousins, that like the other three that I was telling y'all about before, like my auntie and my uncle, they got kids, but they stayed out there already, so my grandma was already taking care of them. So when we get out there, it's like we become like burdens. So that's the way I felt. It probably wasn't that way, and later on down the line, when I got a little older, like my bond with me and my grandpa was always cool. My grandpa was chill, relaxed. He, he didn't he even though he was a preacher, like he was a different type of preacher. You know what I mean? Like if y'all would ever met him, and I know there's people out here that met him before, they know what I'm talking about. Like he was chill. Sometimes when I this later on down the line, like I was young, he'd just come to the neighborhood and just pick me up. I'll be out there chilling, doing what I'm doing, and he'd just pull up. And then I get in the car. I know he just want me to get in, and he don't say nothing. We just drive around, maybe sometimes for like 20, 30 minutes, sometimes maybe like an hour. And neither one of us say nothing. We just sitting in the car and just drive. And then next thing you know, he get whatever he came for, and like internally, like for me, just to show me, and I felt the same. I didn't feel the same, and I feel like he was showing me that he loved me and that he needed my love to show him I loved him back. And he had dropped me off. I get out the car, and neither one of us said nothing, but that genuine feeling within us was there. So back to what I was saying about us being back and forth, like my mom wanted me to get good grades, and on like in Fresno is the west side, the east side, and the north side. But at that time, it was only the west side, the east side. I mean, at that time, it was on like the west side was really where all the black was at. It was a couple springing around the east side, but the north side was pretty much where the white people was at. And it's other little areas outside of that called Clovis and other spots, but that's deep white area at that time. Don't get me wrong, I ain't no racist. I'm just explaining how it was out here during the time I was growing up. So, excuse me. So, like, my mom gets to doing bad, and we end up moving out there to my grandma's house. We had to go to kind of like the good schools. Me and my little sister, and my at that time, me and my sister, we only 2 years apart. The one that's under me, we got the same dad, and then my other brothers and sisters. My brother, they all got the same dad, but he's 10 years younger than me. So those three got the same dad. So a lot of times when I speak about me and my sister because we kind of grew up together in that area. First, before my little brother and them came along, we was 10, 8, 10 and 8. Or when my little brother and them came along, my brother came along, and then my little sister and my other little sister was born when I was in prison. So when we would go out there, we'd move out to my grandma's house for a while. And even though I was getting good grades when we would stand in the black area, like my good grades would go down when I moved to the good area. So it'd be like the teacher, the tutelage and the teaching was different out there. So things that I'm getting straight A's out over here where the blacks at. Then when I get out there, I'm getting like C's and D's. So it was a trip because then my mama get to tripping on me like I'm getting bad grades, but she ain't understanding that we moved out here where their education is more advanced than what I'm used to already. But then when I get back, she'll get back on her feet. We'll move back to the black area, and I'm back at straight A's again because I'm already getting taught the stuff that we learning over there in the black area. A lot of people might not understand that this is how it is, and it's probably still that way to this day, to a certain extent. I'm pretty sure because we don't get the like just like it's tagging all in the books and all the pages misses and all the stuff. But out there, you got brand new books still smelling fresh. Like when you get that brand new book smell, that brand new car smell, it's a different feeling. And I wasn't used to that, but when I get out there, I'm not only dealing with the educational thing because it ain't just about the education. Now me and my sister, sometimes we was the only blacks that was going. And me, my sister, and my cousins. Because like I said, my cousins was already out there, and they was going to these schools already. So they like my cousin that was older than me. She got straight A's even out there, so she was smart in the mud. But this was my auntie, the one of the three that I told you that was a part of the bad crew of the family or whatnot. My cousin, she rest in peace now. And it was like, but she was smart as hell. So, but me and her was tight. So she had helped me with my homework. And I ain't gonna lie, like, I ain't want to take no books home. Like I wasn't like that. I didn't want to get caught walking home with books and stuff. She got backpack and all the stuff. I ain't had none of that. She got backpack, lunch pails. I ain't got none of that. We didn't come up like that. But it was a trip because like I didn't realize what was going on at that time. Like growing up, I didn't realize that it was because they had already been taught. I mean, they getting taught. They already passed where I was getting taught at on in the black area. It was like I kind of like felt ignorant, felt dumb, sometimes because I'm like, why I didn't realize why I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know the work, the homework, and the stuff that I was doing now because I didn't realize that even though I'm in the same grade, that is they already advanced further than I had already learned. But like I say, when I got back to when my mom get to doing good and we moved back to the area where the blacks was at, I'm back to now. I'm really feeling like I'm smart again. So it's kind of like uplifting my spirits or whatever the case may be. But my mama didn't understand that neither because when I was out there getting bad grades, I was getting my butt whooped. You know what I mean? Like bad because and it ain't my fault. I didn't realize it at the time, but I realized it later on down the line when I got older, when I was locked up. I'm like, that's why I wasn't getting good grades when I was over there because I always got good grades when I was over here, but when I went out there, now it makes sense. And that's something I would like I want to share too because sometimes people don't realize what's actually going on. And and I'm not just talking about the parents and then like I'm talking about the kids. They don't realize the problems that they're going through either. So sometimes you need to pay more a little more attention to what's actually going on within your child and not just your child, but in the general area, the education department and everything else that's around the area to so that you'll be aware of what's needed for them to progress in life and get an understanding. Like, let me go a little more detail about my life growing up. I got a little notepad over here. Just that's why I'm looking over here because I got a little stuff jotted down that I want to talk about. But I don't know if it's all gonna get on this one. But I'm gonna continue to do what I do. Like not me getting those whoopings. You know what I mean? Like it was a lot. And then when we get back to the west, where the blacks was at, like my grandma stayed out there. So, but we didn't stay where my grandma stayed at. We stayed like maybe like few neighborhoods over. I can't say a few blocks, but it was a few neighborhoods over. And like when I used to get whoopings from my mama, I used to always try to run away and make it to my grandma's house because I know once I make it to my grandma's house, I'm good. My grandma, my daddy mama, never got a whooping. She hit me with a dish rag one time, and I cried like she hit me with a brick and she she never hit me again. I didn't like, and I'm gonna tell you a story about that too because my auntie and my cousins used to stay over here too, like on my dad's side, and my grandma never hit me, and I didn't realize down the line that like my auntie used to whip me. But I figured now, I realize this down the line that later on that my grandma was probably telling my auntie, "Oh, whoop him," because she don't want to whoop me because she know how her hitting me is gonna feel. Like I can accept my auntie whooping me, but my grandma whooping me, that's like she killing me because and when I was growing up, that was the only person I felt that loved me. Like even in I realize now, especially going to prison, I realize now that my other family members love me. But when I was growing up, when I was real young, before she passed away, like I felt like she was the only person that loved me. Like in the way that she loved me, that's the way I learned how to love. So if like I feel like if you wasn't willing to die and I wasn't willing to die for you, then it wasn't true love. Because my grandma would have did anything for me, and I guarantee like it ain't nothing I could ask my grandma to do and she wouldn't have done it. Like for real, and vice versa. Like I don't care what it was. My grandma was that's how much she meant to me and that's how much like her hitting me with that dish rag hurt. Put it that way. But like I was saying, like I used to always try to run away to my grandma's house. And my grandma she used to keep a little 38 in her apron and she always kept the front screen door open. So I remember this one time, like I got like my mama with my ass with my butt. And I remember what it was for too, because I got one word wrong on my spelling test. And she was like, you ain't eating right now until you go in there and write this word 1,000 times. I can't remember what the exact word was, but I know it started with an L. And So I'm like, all right, because this is what she normally do. I gotta write if I miss a word on spelling test or something like that. I gotta write it so many times or whatever. So what I did was I got the paper and I just wrote one long line on however many times I had to wrote. I wrote one long line, so that's the L, and then I wrote the rest of the word out. I wrote the rest of the word out on the paper, and I wrote. I don't know if it was 1,000 times, but as a kid, you think it's 1,000 times. So however many times it was, I wrote just one long line a couple times, and then I wrote the rest of the word on a letter. I mean, the rest of the word on the paper. Next thing I know, when I go give her the paper, tell her I'm finished, she like, this ain't you ain't write this. You just wrote one long line on the paper and then wrote the rest of the word. I'm like, it's an L. She's like, this ain't no L. This is a line. You gonna do this all over? I'm like, man. So I go in the room. You know what I mean? I'm sitting here looking around. We used to have bars on our window, but on the inside, you could just it was like a little pin. You could pull a pin up and then you just swing the bar out. Just that's I guess that was a safety rule or whatever because it's just a case of a fire in the house. So man, I pulled that pin up and I jumped out that window and I was gone, bro. Like I took off running and I know like I say, my grandma stayed like a couple of hoods away, not a couple of blocks. So I'm striking. But my mama already know where I'm going. She know I'm fit to go to my grandma's house. But I'm trying to get up out of here without her knowing so that way it'll give me enough time to get over. Because most of the time she always like cut me off before I get there. But this one time right here, man, I don't know. I think I ran the whole time. Sometimes you get tired and you slow down, you start walking. But I know if I slow down and start walking, my mama gonna catch me. So I ran for a long time. I was probably looking like one of them Africans or Ethiopians over there in the Olympics or something, just running, just running. Man, I got almost all the way there. And before you get to my grandma's house, it's a big old field. Well, it ain't no more, but back then it was a big old field. So I'm running across the field and I see my mama car, like, cause the street is like like once you get out of the field, it's a street and then you got to turn down the street to get to my grandma's house. But my grandma's house is right on the other side of the street. So I see my mama car driving to my grandma's house, but I'm in the middle of the field. But when I see her pull up at my grandma's house, I stop. I just stop in the middle of the field. But like I say, my grandma kept her screen door open. I mean, kept the door open, but with the screen door closed so she could see out. So, like I say, everybody it used to be everybody at our house. So, but she see my mama pull up, so she come outside. I guess she assuming that I'm in the car with my mama or whatever the case may be. But my mama, she's standing on the like right there on the corner on the house, and she like, yeah, get your butt in this car. But I'm standing in the middle of the field. And my grandma, she got her hand in her pocket. Like I say, she keep her 38 in her pocket. And she like, what's going on? And I'm like, I'm just standing in the field. I ain't trying to come up out that field because I know once I get in the car with my mama, it's gonna be a wrap. She gonna whoop my butt. Man, my grandma like, boy, come here. When she said come here, okay, I'm coming because I know my grandma ain't finna let nothing happen to me. And then so I get over there to my grandma and I'm looking at my mama, but I'm by my grandma. You know what I mean? My grandma gonna, but she my protector right there. So she like, what's going on? And I was like, my mama was like, what, you want to stay over here? And I was like, yep. She's like, all right, you stay your butt over here. Don't be coming your butt back to the house neither. And I'm like, all right. My grandma, my mama ain't wouldn't fit mess with my grandma. My mama got squabbles though. I ain't gonna lie. I seen my mama beat up dudes and all type of stuff, like for real, for real. So, but from that time on, I was at my grandma's house, and now I don't know what I can't remember what age that was, but I know my grandma died when I was 14, and when she died, that was rough for me. That was rough for me, and I remember when she passed away too. Like I'll get into that later because I don't feel like crying on this screen right now. But like my life before then. It was even before even at that time it was rough. And like that's just one little story. Y'all gonna hear a lot of my stories and a lot of stuff that I've been through. And until right now, that might not seem like nothing. It is nothing. But that's the life that I had to live and the things that I had to go through. You know, I appreciate y'all listening to me, man. Y'all take care. Another episode, Prisoner to Billionaire.